Suddenly, just as they reached under those trees, the spying creature lost its footing, let out a scream, and fell to the ground with a thump. Both startled from seeing something fall from the trees, Sourpuss pointed at the figure who was in the shadows just ahead. "Hey! I knew we were being followed!" exclaimed Sourpuss. The figure started to run away.
"Come back here, you! Why were you following us?"
called out Rachel. "Let's go after him!" said Sourpuss to Rachel, and so the two of them began to chase after the shadowy figure through the neighborhood along the cobblestone path. As they were gaining on the figure, who they began to determine must be a little boy from the neighborhood, he looked back at Sourpuss with a sly smirk on his face. "Hey!" said Sourpuss. Just then, Sourpuss stepped on a pathway stone that gave way. "It's a ball!" Sourpuss let out a meow as he was falling down into a large hole which was under the pathway above. It wasn't too far of a drop, but it was a wonder why Sourpuss, being a cat, did not land on all four paws. Luckily, Sourpuss landed on an old open treasure chest below. Soon, Rachel caught up to where Sourpuss had fallen down. She looked down into the dark hole and called out,
"Are you okay, Sourpuss?"
"I think so," called back Sourpuss. Sourpuss dusted himself off. His eyes adjusted to the dark and then began to look around in the cave. What an interesting cavern! Sourpuss couldn't believe all that was down there. "Hey, Rachel! You've got to come down here and check all this out!" Sourpuss hollered up. There happened to be a rope ladder that led down the hole, so Rachel slowly climbed down to meet her friend. "This must be some kind of spooky storage space," said Sourpuss to himself. It turned out that this was some sort of hideout, filled with all sorts of costumes and gadgets, including the old treasure trunk in the corner, filled with all sorts of Halloween costumes, gizmos, and tricks.
"Look at all these interesting costumes over here."
Sourpuss turned to Rachel as she began to look through all the different costumes. One looked like Bigfoot, while another costume looked like a Halloween witch. There were others that looked like all sorts of ghosts and goblins. As she was looking through the costumes, she went to reach for one and said,
"Hey, this one, it looks like a silly green goblin."
She grabbed what she thought was a mask, and it cried out. "Ouch!" the figure said.
Eek!
Rachel screamed. "No, ick!" A young green goblin boy came out from the shadows and stepped into the moonlight that shone down from the trap opening above. "Hey, who are you, and why were you following us?" asked Sourpuss. "I said my name is Ick," the young goblin boy said, annoyed. "I thought I'd follow you because you were the only ones that I have seen outside in the neighborhood for days. Every night there has hardly been anyone to trick during trick-or-treating. So I thought it would be fun to follow you and see where you were going. You wouldn't have found me if I hadn't fallen out of that old tree. This is my friend Eeks and my hideout. Down here, we come up with all our tricks for trick-or-treating." An excited Ick continued. "We have all kinds of fun together, creating new ideas on how to trick the trick-or-treaters and get their candy. My best friend Eek always loves Halloween, and we love trick-or-treating because we love playing tricks on people, even more than getting and sharing in the goodies." He sighed. "But now I can't find Eek. He's been gone for days now. The last time we were together, we were planning our biggest trick yet." Eek said he had an idea, but had to get something first. He left the next day, but he never came back. I'm not sure what to do. Ever since he left, it has been no fun on Halloween Island. Everyone stays inside, and now there isn't even trick-or-treating. I wonder what has gone wrong,"
Maybe Eek's disappearance has something to do with what's going on.
said Rachel. "We are on our way to seek out Jack at the Jack-o'-lantern Inn to see if he knows anything," said Sourpuss. "Will you let me come along?" asked Ick. "For sure," said Rachel and Sourpuss. And so the band of now 3 set off. They made their way out of Halloweeny and into the Valley of Pumpkins to find Jack. Long ago, the Jack-o'-lantern Inn had once been one of the largest pumpkins ever grown in the valley, and was one day carved into an inn to be saved for many to enjoy. Over those years, the Jack-o'-lantern Inn became a frequent stop on many visitors' journeys and a real favorite of the locals on Halloween Island. It was known to be a vibrant old inn where some of the island's most colorful characters hung out, enjoyed hauntingly good spirits, and shared in all the local ghost stories. When they arrived, however, the Jack-o'-lantern Inn was not busy at all. In fact, it did not even appear to be open. As Sourpuss went to knock, the door opened slowly, and a wisp of cool air flew out past them. "Those spirits were my last customers," a voice could be heard saying. As the door swung further open, Sourpuss saw a pumpkin-headed scarecrow man, hunched over, alone at a table. He seemed very sad. "Excuse me, sir. We are looking for Jack," Sourpuss asked, with Rachel and Ick standing alongside him. "I am Jack," the scarecrow man said, still looking down at the table where he sat.
We were told that you know much of what goes on here on Halloween Island. May we come in?
Rachel asked. "Of course. Where are my manners?" Jack perked up a bit more, seeing that he had potential customers. "Do come in." The 3 entered and sat down at the table around Jack.
Do you know what happened here on Halloween Island? Why all the gloom?
"I am not sure what has happened, but my inn does not seem to be attracting many visitors, and the locals no longer seem to enjoy going out much. It has been this way for days. The Halloween spirit just doesn't seem to be alive anymore here on the island. Oh, how I wish for the good old days. Folks have said that someone or something has played the greatest of all tricks on Halloween Island, and now there is no time to share in the fun because they are all worried about being tricked. When he heard that, Ick looked away. He wondered if his friend Eek had anything to do with that. "What do you mean by trick?" Sourpuss asked. Why, a silly prank done in fun, like jumping out and saying boo, is innocent fun," explained Jack. "But sometimes a trick can go too far and actually hurt the ones we care about, like taking someone's candy or causing them to feel sad. For Halloween is meant to be a festive and fun time where we share good times with those we care about. That's why I have always loved this inn. The Jack-o'-lantern Inn is one of the most lively of all places to gather on the island. Yummy goodies, the sharing of ghost stories, it's a great place to hang out. At least it once was." Jack let out a long sigh, and then he continued. "Oh, I wish we'd get back to the good old days. Oh, the good old days." Jack paused and turned to Sourpuss. "The Dreamweaver is who you should go to and meet with. She is an old mystic who may provide you with the answers you seek. She lives not too far from here. If you meet with her, tell her old Jack misses seeing her at the Jolie. That's short for Jack-o'-lantern Inn. Woohoo!" And so Rachel, Sourpuss, and Ick thanked Jack and went on their way. Their next destination was to meet with the Dreamweaver. By then, it was getting late in the afternoon. Normally, at that time on Halloween Island, the children were putting the final touches on their Halloween costumes, and the excitement for trick-or-treating was building. If only that was happening, but this was not the case on that day. As for the three new friends, the only way to get quickly to the Dreamweaver's cottage required them to venture through the forest of spiders, and they were a bit concerned because darkness would soon be upon them. As they carefully walked through this damp web of trees, they would frequently get entangled in freshly made webs from the spiders. It was very difficult to avoid spider webs in the forest of spiders. In time, the three did make it through and out of the forest. As they looked to the west, down a windy path and back up a hill, they saw a little cottage perched in an old oak tree. It was a peculiar-looking place, with the way the tree branches seemed to hold the old cottage. But then again, it was very fitting, considering most everything on the island had seemed a little strange. As they made their way up the path to the cottage, they could see, hanging from spindly old trees, nests of spiders. They would soon find that the Dreamweaver used these spiders to create a magical weaving thread, and the spiders were everywhere. After they climbed and climbed many steps, they reached the entrance of the cottage and went to knock upon the door. But before they could knock, the door turned soft and into soft black fur. It was alive.
What's this?
Rachel asked, amazed. The fur had begun to reach for them and pull them inside. "No, no! Let's get out of here!" squealed Ick.
That sounds like a good idea.
"But what's wrong with fur?" Sourpuss replied. "It's only fur, and it actually feels kind of cozy. In fact, I dreamt once about having a house covered in soft fur." And at that moment, the fur parted and released Ick and Rachel. Then they heard a soft voice. "Come in, Sourpuss, and bring your 2 friends."
Are you the Dreamweaver?
asked Rachel. "I am a Dreamweaver. Come in. I have been waiting for you, Sourpuss." "Waiting for me?" Sourpuss asked in amazement. "Why, yes. We Dreamweavers have a special connection to dreamers like yourself. This was why the door suddenly turned into fur, because of our connection. I felt the vibration of a dream of yours. Why, you may say I am a dreamer, but I'm not the only one." She chuckled. "And because of this connection, I know why you have sought me out. Gather round, and I will show you." With that, the 3 gathered around her rocking chair and watched in awe as the old woman began to weave together some mystical thread from her basket. It took only a moment before a glowing piece of woven material began to flow from her hands. From this flowing material emitted a bright green light that began to hover in the air above them. "Oh my! Our island, as we know it, is in trouble. Our ancient tradition has been compromised. I'm afraid we may never celebrate Halloween again on the island." "Oh no! How can this be?" Ick asked, so distraught from hearing this. The Dreamweaver continued. "I'm afraid that trick-or-treating is out of balance. This is why there is no more celebrations and no more of this cherished Halloween tradition. There have been too many tricks to the point where no one goes out anymore to trick or to treat." She sat puzzled for a moment, and then she exclaimed, "Something must have happened to the great golden pumpkin." "Great golden pumpkin? Why, I thought that was only a myth," said Ick. "Oh, it is very real, my little goblin. The great golden pumpkin, which resides deep within the caverns of the Mountain of Spirits, within the great chamber, is essential in keeping this island's Halloween spirit in balance. The vibration of the great golden pumpkin is connected to the forces of space between the moon and the sun. This relationship is what allows us on the island to have Halloween every day of the year. Without this relationship, Halloween Island would be no different than any other place in the world." And then the old mystic turned and looked at Sourpuss. "Sourpuss, you and your friends must go to the Mountain of Spirits and seek out the great golden pumpkin. But be careful, Many have gone to the mountain and have gotten lost in the maze of caverns. The chamber you will seek, and where you will find the great golden pumpkin, is surrounded by a grand court of pumpkins. These pumpkins surround, and some say guard, the golden pumpkin from trespassers. That sounds kind of silly, Dick quipped. Silly is not the word I'd use, replied the old dreamweaver, who shot a raised eye back at Ick. Now, where was I? To help you on your journey, take this. She handed Sourpuss an old leather satchel that he could wear over his shoulder. Nice man, cat purse, smiled Ick. There are some Halloween goodies in there for you to share. One never knows when you may need some. Oh, thank you, smiled Sourpuss. I can always use some candy. Please take care. And one more thing. Legend has it that in the mountain lives a great spirit. I have never come across this being in all my days, but I have seen this spirit in my dreams. If something has truly happened to the great golden pumpkin, I am afraid of what might happen should you be the one to encounter this being.
What was it like?
Asked Rachel. Replied the Dreamweaver.
Your dream about the spirit.
The spirit consumed the mountain in my dreams, and darkness filled the mountain, and soon the entire island. Let's try to stay positive, exclaimed Sourpuss, and let's see if we can find the great golden pumpkin and help get the balance back to the island before running into that spirit. And so the old Dreamweaver saw the three adventurers off and waved goodbye and said, I wish you well. Keep on the path. You will know you are getting close when you enter the old cemetery. And sweet dreams. She laughed. Then a somber look came to her face. And so, Sourpuss, Rachel, and Ick were back on their way. They had set their sights on perhaps the greatest challenge of their journey. The great mountain of spirits and the mystery that surrounded it was within their sights. By this point, a deeper darkness had fallen on the island.